everyone. Welcome to our project manager office hours for February 2026. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Shelley Reed, the manager of the Legal Services National Technology Assistance Project. Heidi Benke, our fearless leader, is out sick today, so she will not be joining us. But we do have David Gray here, who is going to be sharing his thoughts and information about project manager certifications. And of course, I'll be interjecting some thoughts. And we'd love to hear your thoughts as well on your certifications. So, David, you ready to take it away?
Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna share my screen. I have some slides. Should only take me like 15 minutes or so, and I just plan to do questions at the end because I think we have a full hour. So let me see if I can do this. All right, I think we're good. You can see a slide now, I hope. Okay,
You
cool.
can.
Okay, um, so I think Shelly might have put some of this out in the email anyway, but really I'm just going over a practical overview of how to earn the PMP certification using a DIY approach. This is the approach I took when I took the exam in November 2020, so it has been a while. I'm not going over any actual PMP content. This is just about the certification process. So learning about eligibility, the application, prep, time, costs, strategy. That's all we're going to go over today. So let's see. Let me try this. So just a little bit about me. If you don't know me, I'm David Gray. I consider myself an access to justice business leader with over 15 years of experience across operations, innovation, and marketing. The last 7 years, I've worked at the intersection of technology and access to justice. So right now, I'm currently the director of business and strategy at LawDroid, which is a justice tech company powering AI solutions for legal aid or courts and governments. If you happen to be a client or you're considering working with us, I would be your project manager realistically. So that's where you'll see me. Previously, I spent over 7 years as the business innovation manager at Bay Area Legal Services in Tampa. And I'm also the co founder and advisor, former business director of its Foster Power program. If you don't know, it's a really neat program. I encourage you to check it out. So it's an award-winning program funded mostly by LSC TIG grants. It's a free app, website, videos, and training that gives Florida's foster youth easy access to information on their benefits, protections, and legal rights. Last mention is I did create A to J Jobs a few years ago, and lucky for me, Shelly agreed to take it on for LSNTAP. So you're getting those emails from her now. Shelly, I appreciate you always taking on more. So again, today we're just going to cover the PMP process for certification. What you need to know if you're thinking of pursuing it, how much effort it realistically takes, some common mistakes people make. To make things easier, like I said, we can try to save questions for the end just because I might answer it along the way. And I should be done in 15 minutes or less, so we have plenty of time over the hour to kind of talk things through. So the current PMP exam is mostly scenario based. So you're rarely asked to define terms or calculate formulas just on their own. So it's not, what's the definition of X, Y, or Z? Most questions describe a situation and then ask you what you should do next. And then even though the PMP itself isn't completely agile, like they have separate certifications for that, about 50% of the exam is dedicated to agile as well as hybrid approaches. But at the end of the day, it tests more your judgment more than just, memorization and your recall. So main commitments are cost and time. So this is usually what kind of factors in, especially being a legal aid employee. The funds aren't always there for the firm to sponsor this, and then as well for you to to pay for yourself to get this done. So I definitely would recommend getting your PMI membership in advance. It's right now $164 a year, but you can see the price difference. It'll help you save on the exam to get the certification. Prep costs can range from, you know, almost nothing if you can, you know, completely DIY everything with free resources to about $1,000 if you're looking for a more comprehensive course or materials. And it can go up from there. A lot of universities offer their own sort of courses, and those could be thousands of dollars. I definitely would stay away from those. Most people who pass study for 6 to 10 weeks, and usually, you know, a couple hours a day, you know, 10 to 15 hours a week is pretty standard. The biggest thing is just being consistent. So I would say once you commit, you want to study and prepare to take the exam. Don't study for like 4 weeks and then take a break and come back to it. That usually doesn't go well. So the application process, you know, it's the eligibility is really about your experience. It doesn't matter what your job title is. So if you don't have, you know, project manager in your job title, that's not something you need to worry about. You'll have to submit a project hours worksheet. They used to call it contact hours. I think they might have changed the name, but it's really just a worksheet. You list out your project, a short description about what it is, and then the total hours you spent leading or managing that project. So a lot of legal aid work you can kind of think through would qualify. It might take some creative thinking, but you can see from that list there's plenty of things you can think of to include it. And then you have to break those down into the 5 phases of project management, which are initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, and closing. So that can take you a little bit of time. You'll see later in sort of a schedule. I have things like this broken out. But really, it's just translating your current work into, you know, PMI's framework. So you don't need to exaggerate your role or your title or anything like that. Tell them what you're doing now, break it up into the 5 phases, and you're typically good to go. The one thing you will for sure need to do, pretty much, I think it's a requirement for everyone, is you have to have 35 hours of project management education training requirement. And sorry, these are actually what they used to call contact hours. So you might see that listed on some of these online courses. You can't really get out of this. You have to have something to show you did these 35 hours. There's usually pretty low cost options on sites like Udemy or Coursera, or, you know, where people kind of put these courses together. I think I did mine on Udemy and it was on sale for like $20. Again, these will range anywhere from $10 to $100. It just depends. I will say things seem to be a little bit more expensive than when I did it 5 years ago. But again, you can usually get these done relatively for relatively low amounts of money. Let's see. So your actual application, again, it's not, you know, very difficult. It's essentially your resume and for the application plus those project hours. Really, you don't need to worry about audits. It's pretty uncommon. Typically, if you are audited, it's just they would be reaching out to your past supervisor and employer just to kind of confirm that what you've included is correct. But I've never known or even heard of anyone being audited. So I wouldn't really worry about it. And then once you're approved, you have a full year to take the exam. So don't think you have to do it within a few months, though that's my recommendation. Many people, they'll apply early. So what I did, and a lot of people I know, once you get it, you sort of pick the exam date you're shooting for and kind of work up to that target date. So the prep resources are, you know, where you really want to focus. So let's discuss these a little bit. This is where it's, you know, you have your few options. So PMI, they do offer a few free resources, but, you know, just like all these other providers, they're trying to make money with all this too. So a lot of what they offer are paid courses, especially if you want kind of the full suite. Personally, I'd stick with just their free resources because they can get expensive. The most straightforward path, the one that I recommend and I took, was a service or sort of online option called PM Master Prep. It is a little expensive. It's $9.95. When I did it 5 years ago, it was half that price. So sorry, things everything seems like it's gone up when I researched it. But you get a full course book. It's essentially the PMBOK narrowed down to really what you need to know. It's a few hundred pages versus like 1,000 something pages. Gives you the whole study structure. There's a separate EVM study guide. There's a ton of practice questions and the practice exams where you can kind of simulate actually taking an exam, and then they give you a lot of strategy for actually taking the exam. Again, this is what I took. They also have a lot of free resources on YouTube to just kind of complement what they already give you. But if cost is a concern, and it often is, there's still plenty of materials available online, free practice questions, a bunch of YouTube walkthroughs. Again, the trade-off is just really figuring out like what resources you want to go with, and again, they're free, so it usually isn't everything you need, but it could be most of it. So it really just depends on you and how much time you have committed, and what makes sense. I did reach out to PM Master Prep yesterday. Um, so I don't know if I will ever hear from them or how soon, but I did reach out to see if they'd be willing to provide some sort of discount code for you all, since we're all in sort of the nonprofit space. So hopefully they'll email me back and provide something. So let's see. Okay, so yeah, besides these resources and being able to study and read through everything, um, the questions are probably what's most important. So like just reading through the PMBOK or any other guide you get, um, great. That kind of helps you learn everything a bit, but you really need to um, be doing practice questions. Sorry, I think I'm kind of jumping ahead. Um, let me rethink this through. Um, so let me just see, make sure I'm not missing anything. Um, yeah, so definitely study, and the questions, which I'm going to get to in a second, are kind of your main thing. The PMI, the project management book, the PMBOK PMBOK, you've probably seen. It's huge. It's really just a reference guide. I would not recommend reading it. That's going to take you forever. It gets really detailed, way more detailed than you need to be. So typically, I'd recommend, if there's a concept or area you're struggling with, that's when you dive into the PMBOK and get into those details. But typically, the PMP resources you find online or the courses you might buy, that's all you actually need. Um, so the practice exams, again, this is really the most important part of all of it. You should expect to answer hundreds of questions over the study period, probably over 1,000. Because after the first few weeks, once you've kind of read through the books, you've gone through a lot of the resources, a lot of what you want to do is be taking practice exams every week, probably even do a couple dozen questions every day. There are a lot of apps you can use for that, where even the free ones, they'll give you maybe like a dozen questions a day. So it's kind of an easy way you can do it in downtime. Because one of the biggest struggle is really taking the actual exam. So if you're not aware, or if you've looked it up, it's 180 questions, and you have it's just a little under 4 hours to complete it. It'll probably take you most of that time. So a lot of the what you're kind of prepping for is taking that exam, getting used to taking the exam, because I mean that's quite like a struggle in itself, to know everything, but then you have to sit for 4 hours and answer 180 questions. That's pretty tough. So I would plan to take at least one full 4 hour practice exam ahead of time, treat it like the actual exam, do it a few days before your exam date or the weekend before. That way you can always kind of look into any areas you're still struggling with. Ahead of that time, I would recommend taking at least two what I'd call half exams. So it's, like 90 or 100 questions, do it in 2 hours, again, just to kind of build up, the confidence and to kind of get used to it. Once you get passing scores, if you're definitely getting like 70% or higher on all your practice exams, you're ready. The passing rate has never been pretty specific from what I've seen, but from what people say, usually it's about 65 to 70% is what's assumed passing. So if you're getting 70% or higher on your practice exams, I would, go for it. Don't wait till you're getting like 90% or something. You don't need to wait that long. Um, Exam day basics. So you can take the test online, wherever you may be, or you can take it in person at a testing center. By the time you're ready to take the exam, you've probably done all your studying and practice exams at home. So I recommend, instead of introducing like a new environment, you're already stressed out, stick with what you know and take your exam online at home if that's what you're used to. Again, the exam, it's really long, so you definitely need to pace yourself. There are one, maybe two built-in breaks that are optional. Definitely take those. I think you have 10 minutes. Um, and just at the end of the day, most people feel uncertain once they've taken it. Again, you're pretty drained. So like, I thought I barely passed. And if I passed it all and end up scoring above target, and that's what, I hear from a lot of people, it's just kind of a lot to do in one day. Um, all right, so this is a big thing, and we can talk more about this afterwards as well, because this happened to me when I took my exam. So the PMI has just announced recently that there's going to be a new certification exam. So the current exam, if you were to take it, what they have available now is good through the end of June. They're going to have new prep materials released April 14th, and then the new exam launches in July. I highly recommend, if this is something you're considering, to do it now. Do it before they change, because if you any resources you use, free or paid, they're not necessarily going to be up to date. So all those providers, they're working on creating new materials for the new exam. That takes a while. The current exam, all the study materials are, have been used. They're tried and true. They've been used for 5 years. It's a mature prep ecosystem, or whatever you want to say. So I would highly recommend, if you're considering this, get started, do it right away, do it before June 30th. Because it's just, again, you're just honestly introducing another hurdle to this whole situation. I think this is my last slide. So DIY doesn't mean doing this alone. I can't see how many people are on this call now, but I think there's at least a dozen of you in this project managers group, maybe a few dozen total. So I did this right after I finished my MBA. There were like 8 to 10 of us who all wanted to pursue our PMP certification. So we formed a study group. We would meet each week to discuss the different knowledge areas, discuss, areas we were struggling with. Um, I would highly recommend everyone in here, you all form a group if you're thinking of doing this. It just helps with accountability, kind of keeping everyone on track. It just helps when you're not kind of doing this alone. Again, it can be stressful. It's a lot to do quickly. So if you all can work that out together, I'd highly recommend doing that. All right, so I've got one more slide. So this is my timeline. I just wanted to give you all an idea of how I would recommend going through this. So week 0, again, kind of the eligibility. Week 1, application, getting familiar. Weeks 2 to 5, that's your core studying. And then the weeks after that, you want to do a lot of exams, really understand what areas you're weak in, and study those a bit more. final review week, the exam week. You don't want to be cramming. Definitely take a full length practice exam. And you can adjust this however you need to. I did mine in about 2 weeks total. So if you needed to do this really quickly, I know people who have done this in 6 weeks. I know people who have done it in 12 weeks. One other tidbit is, I don't know how true this is, but I've heard it from several people, is if you wait any longer than 3 to 4 months, sorry, if I think it's if you've been studying for 3 to 4 months and you still haven't taken the exam, like, you're less likely to take it and your passing rate decreases. It's just, um, I don't know. Most people take it within 8 weeks or so. So I would kind of go with that. So happy to just talk until 2 p.m. Answer any questions I can. If you think of anything later, feel free to reach out to me, and I assume Shelly could send these slides out for you later as well. But feel free to note my email, and you can reach out to me if you have any questions.
So I'm going to launch a poll because this got me thinking about some things. So while we're starting to go through questions, I'm going to put the poll up and would love for you to provide some answers, because it may be that if we have enough interest that Ellis and TAP could host some kind of just training for project management. Um, and then, so now we also can take questions for David.
I'll do my best.
I have a question. You mentioned about the membership being on sale for it's usually the 425, but it's 100 and something right now. Where would we get information on that?
Sorry, I'm trying.
I'm dropping PMI's website in the
Yeah.
chat.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so if you go on the website, so PMI Project Management Institute are technically um, the project management certification, go to. So they have everything on their site. All of what I said, there's a lot more information if you go to their site on the PMP certification. So it actually says it right there. You can see where the membership pricing is, but then it'll also show you if you're a current member or not a member, how much that might be.
I also wanted to mention that PMI is not the only game, on the field. There are other organizations. So I held certification through, oh gosh, now I can't remember what it is. Let me pull up my LinkedIn page. Um, through the legal, I have a legal something certificate through, oh, I looked this up earlier. No, I forgot.
So,
But there are other certifications. If this certification is out of your budget range, for example, NTEN, the national, I don't even know what NTEN stands for, they offer some certifications that start about $500 and are very approachable. So I'm going to drop NTEN's link in here. And I'm doing one of their certifications, and they're not heavy lifts. The courses are relatively quick. There's a little bit of homework and stuff, but that is something that you can do. Let me continue looking for my certification. So there are other
there's
certifications available.
Yeah, there's the Google Project Management Certificate. They do that through Coursera. I think you just have to pay for Coursera monthly. So, depending on how long that takes you, it might just be, I think maybe $50 a month or something.
So the International Institute of Legal Project Management is who I hold certification through, and they have a legal process improvement professional. That is the certification that I have. They also have project management professional certifications. I think we've given everybody enough time to answer the poll, so I'm going to go ahead and end that so it gets out of everybody's way, and I'll share the results. Kind of interesting. Um, All right. Oh, we have Rosalind needs to come in. So, any questions for David? Anything that you that this brought up? Any thoughts on? I appreciate you answering the questions because this is something I've been thinking about for a while. Um, maybe Ellison Tap could foot the bill for a certain number of people, but then when it comes to how do we decide who those people are, we would want to be as equitable as possible in that. But if we could maybe find a way to get like do it as a group, we may be able to get a lower rate for some of the training things. And that's how I got mine through Vanderbilt Law offered a 2-day training at a much lower rate than I would have been able to purchase it individually.
We talked about some of these different kind of programs and certification options, but David, would you say that the PMP is still kind of the most respected and widely recognized of these different certifications out there?
Yeah, it is. That's what people look for typically, but I don't know. At the same time, I think it's kind of I don't know. I'm trying to think. It's yeah, it's definitely the number one. But I mean, when there's certifications like by Google and other respectable organizations, it's not. Um, I don't think anyone's going to look down on you having a certification from another, respected organization, if that makes sense.
So David, I would love to
Mhm.
hear how you have used the certification in your career. I think that would be interesting to people. Have you found
They're putting me on the
how have
spot.
you leveraged it?
Yeah, I mean, and I mean, really everything I do. So, at Bay Area Legal Services, my role kind of varied day to day. So I, led and managed a lot of our TIC grants, which varied from document automation, building out the foster power program, working, with staff, of all levels. So it definitely helped me be more organized and thoughtful in the project we're building, staying within scope and just really making sure people understand the goals of it all. But a lot of what we do in legal aid, is a project I had pushed, for a while for our firm to consider investing in project management certification or training for our legal admins and paralegals. Because I mean, pretty you could argue pretty much every case is a project, at least the flow of how it's handled. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there in legal aid. But yeah, I think right now, I mean, I am using it, but to lesser of a degree, since I'm more focused on growing LawDroid's business and products right now. But yeah, it's definitely been useful. I don't think I'd be quite where I am if I didn't have that to kind of help me along the way with the project I was working on.
So since I'm a late in life, law grad, I will say that certifications in like local government and other fields can help increase like your pay. I don't have enough experience in the legal aid or arena to know if that's something that will help. But what I can say is that this certification has helped me with skills that I use in my job every day. In project management, the skills are, had a meeting this morning that, change management, using the language that the certification gives me, um, it has been very valuable. So whether or not I see it in my paycheck, personally, it is very valuable. And I do think that um, when I have applied for positions, especially after law school, um, organizations did look at, the certifications in my, like on my LinkedIn bio, things like that. So having all of those listed, although I don't think it helped give me a higher pay rate, I think it did help me get in the door. So just that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It definitely helps you stand out a bit more. I think being in the line of work we are, it probably doesn't help you get a pay raise. Um, but maybe if you're lucky, I do know outside of of this field, I do know plenty of people, that I've known along the way who got a PMP were able to get a raise for that. But I don't know that we're quite lucky. But yeah, it does become second nature after a while. I mean, again, a lot of you, whether you're project managers, like officially or unofficially, we're all probably doing it in some way. So you'll see right away, like when you're studying, like, oh, I already do that, or oh, that makes sense, I've been doing that for years, or oh, this is a good way I could have approached, whatever it may be. So once you do the certification, like, I'll be honest with you, like, if you had to quiz me on the 5 phases or the knowledge areas, like, I'm not, I'm not going to be able to tell you most of them. But it's all up here. It's all, the resources are all online. So it kind of jumps back in, but it just becomes second nature after a while.
And I would say that it also helps if you want to transition to another role within our ecosystem, as David has done. Certainly, I'm pretty sure that Tom would have looked at those skills and the things that David brings to the role. So it can help you find another place, especially in the maybe the tech sector, um, but also in non-traditional roles within organizations. Um, and I think we're going to see more and more organizations start to have those non-traditional roles, as budgets are stretched and new ways of doing things are being tried. So it's certainly something that will help. And like I tell my kids, they can't ever take education away from you. So do it. Um, all right. So I'm going to pause the recording now. That way, if anybody has questions that they don't want to be saved for posterity. Whoops. Let's try that again.